Hi, welcome back to A Spiritual Life, where I'm here to help you move from surviving to thriving in this busy world by living a more conscious and spiritual life. So this is a part 2 video on distractions and anchors. So if you haven't checked out part 1, go and see that before you check in and dive in with this one. Because in this one, we're going to cover a little bit more on thoughts, because thoughts are our biggest distractions. Then we're going to move on to emotions, which is a real biggie, and then sensations and embodiment. And we'll link all those three together, and then we're going to move on to sound as the anchor. In the last video, breath was the anchor, so go and check that one out too. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so let's start with thoughts then. This is just a quick recap from last video. I'm not going to go into any detail. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But basically, this is just 3 analogies to think of your thoughts, whether or not your thoughts are jumping off and running away, or you've got big, heavy, thick clouds of thoughts, or light, fluffy clouds. Either way, they're not blue skies. Or you've got your stream running through and hitting the rocks, feeling some obstructions, but getting through nonetheless. Okay, so I just wanted to recap on them, because those visuals, whichever one resonates more with you, the train, the clouds, or the river, it might be worthwhile conjuring that up as we go through this next bit. All right, so thoughts. In thoughts, we have 2 types. So we've got random ones and we've got challenging thoughts. Okay, so random and challenging. Random, generally not emotionally charged. They're kind of things like, what should I do for tea? All your to-do lists, you know, lots of thoughts like that are in your head. Not really emotionally charged. You've got challenging ones, which tend to be. So if we think about the clouds in this scenario, this will be your black clouds, these will be your white clouds. Yeah. Now in between here, linking them both, is the word repetitive. So they can both be repetitive, whether they're emotionally charged or not. So you can have deep, dark thoughts, heavy thoughts probably is the better term. So deep, heavy thoughts, and they could be repetitive. They could be quite constant in your everyday life. Or you've got random ones, these to-do lists, these what I've got to do today, and they can be repetitive too, okay? And I know that very well, you know, living in the to-do lists, very repetitive, to the point where I just have to write them down, get them on my whiteboard, get them out my head, because, yeah, otherwise they are very repetitive, and they need to be. I'm going to come on to that anyway. In fact, no, I'll talk about that now. They need to be there. Thoughts, as I said in the other video, thoughts are important. We do need them. They help with our survival. The only thing is, negative thoughts, which help more with our survival because it will keep us out of danger, it will remember something that's happened before, and our bodies, you know, these thoughts are there to protect us. So when something bad's happened before, it goes in the memory. And then when something similar happens, our thought will say, that's happened before. Watch it, watch it, watch it. Now that's classed as like a negative thought, yeah? They're there for a survival, they're there for a reason. The negative ones being so dominant, they stick like Velcro. Okay, so you could just have the one negative thought and it would be stuck all day. You could have a one negative experience in a shop, that one will stick. You could have 10 positive ones, they slide off like Teflon. Okay, that's the analogy that we use for that. So it's important to understand thoughts, not resist them, push them away, understand why they're here, why they exist, why they're important. Be kind to them. Remember what mindfulness is all about, paying attention to the present moment without judgment, with kindness. So yeah, it's about accepting them for what they are and analysing them ourselves. Is this good for me? Is this useful for me? It may be, but but now it needs to go. So thanks for reminding me, but now it needs to go. Okay. So what do we do? When it's a random thought, we can just let it go. Thanks for reminding me, off you go. If it's challenging, go under the thought to the emotion. Okay, so we're going to move on to emotions in a sec. But go under the thought and find the emotion. Because if that heavy one is coming up quite a lot, that's showing us something at a deeper level. Okay. If it's repetitive, it means the issue needs sorting. Set some time aside for it. Okay. Whether it is the random ones that you've let go to get on with your day, whether it is the heavy ones, the darker clouds, if you haven't got time right now, because they're repetitive, they need some more work. And we'll go into what that work is in a sec. Okay, but now we're going to move on to emotions. Emotions is to move through energy and motion. Emotions are just energy. Again, they're very important. They tell us what's going on. We've had an experience before and it gives us an emotion. I'll come on to this, how it links. It's just amazing once you get your head around it. So emotions are important. We need to listen to them. But we've been brought up really in this society to push them down and carry on regardless. What's the phrase? Keep calm and carry on, especially the Brits, right? So it's important to understand our emotions just as it is our thoughts. Realise the importance of them. I'm teaching my girls now, all emotions are important. If we can just get that phrase, all emotions are important. Unpleasant experiences and sensations in our body feels dangerous. Like it's another thing about our ego, it's another thing about survival, it's another thing to say, well, these emotions aren't good. I'm in danger, I'm in fight, flight, freeze mode. Yeah? It's our body's way of saying danger, danger, danger. And it was good back in the day when animals were running after us, whatever. But now it's constant. It's our constant stimulation with tech, social media, devices, constantly. They're accessible 24/7. That is becoming a threat. That is putting us into fight and flight mode. Our bodies don't know the difference between the saber-toothed tiger and that. It's what we think other people think of us. That's another one. That's another one that will put us into that fight, flight, freeze. What people think of us, people pleasing. The I don't believe I can thing. And then we get worked up. We get into anxiety and stuff. So it's important to know what they're all about. Give them the respect they need. But we now need the tools to deal with them, to get us out of this fight or flight. We shouldn't be in that the majority of the time. We should be in our regulating system. So this helps us do that. So every time we start to feel this happening, we can use these tools to not get us out of it, to understand it and to know what we can do with it if we need to. It's our body's natural response to turn away from unpleasant experiences or sensations. Our survival mode doesn't want us to get hurt anymore. So it's our body's natural response to turn away from unpleasant experiences or sensations. In mindfulness, however, we go towards it. And that's what feels so uncomfortable. Really, really uncomfortable. In mindfulness, we turn towards them with kindness and compassion. Why? What we resist persists. So if you've got something going on that makes you feel anxious, you've got a thought, you've got anxiety coming, and you keep pushing it down. You push that anxiety, that issue, that situation down, and just, like you say, carry on regardless. When we do that enough, that emotion builds, because it's not gone away, it's not being worked through. It's still around us. It's an energy. Remember, we talked about energy in spirituality video. And energy can conjure up in the body, and it can create illnesses and disease. It certainly doesn't live a life of freedom. Even if you don't believe that, it doesn't live as a life of freedom. I relate it to having a ball and chain. If you're in an emotion that's repetitive or quite charged, and it's like having a ball and chain, and you're carrying on regardless, dragging this ball of chain around. Are you living free by doing that? But if we go towards it with the intention of going towards it, not the intention of getting free from it and breaking the chain, although that is generally what happens. That is what happens. But we don't do that with the intention, because we're not really going to be working through it properly. The intention needs to be the action of working through it, and then you break free of the chains. I'll give you a good example of that in a minute. So how do we sense emotion? If you're anything like me, always in our heads. Now, this is where my slogan came from, moving from head to heart, because we're always in our heads. I'm a very analytical person anyway. We've been brought up to question things, hopefully, which is a good thing. So being in our heads a lot of the time means it's difficult to feel those sensations, let alone sit with them. If you had to write now 5 emotions, could you do it? And would there be the normal happy, sad, angry? Could you pick out some more emotions? It's actually really difficult. Other than the normal top few, can you pick out some more? It's really quite hard, and the reason is we don't get in touch with them. In society, we're told to just cover them up, get on with it, stop crying, get on with it. So that's just a real strong point as to what's happening with us in this society and why we need to come down and the difficulty of it, okay? And why I'm doing these videos, because we need to move from our heads to hearts more. Because the more we're up in our heads, the more we're in fight, freeze. And I find it hard. I've been to some counselling in the past, and they said to me, how do you feel about this? And I'll go, oh, well, I think da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, no, not what you think of it. What do you feel about it? And I've gone, I don't actually know what I feel about it. I haven't let myself drop down into the emotions. That's a big part of counselling, isn't it? That's why we go. Someone gives us some space to open up those kind of worms, if you will. But by making the time and opening up those kind of worms, we can really live consciously. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what life's about. So how do we do it? We visit the body. We drop inside the sensations. Anxiety. No, I'm not just talking about the negative here. I don't want to be doom and gloom. Yes, anxiety, depression, worry, anger. Yes, they're all negative and we don't want to feel them. But part of the human condition, part of being a human being, is that we feel it all and not shy away from it. Right now I'm feeling really blooming angry, and I'm allowed to feel angry. And just let that emotion pass. Let it pass. whether it's 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. Let that emotion fully pass through you and notice the change. But it's not just the negative. Notice the joy, the bliss, the exhilaration. We need to do that more, because those things don't stick in us, because those are positive. They're not about survival, so they go off like Teflon. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, Teflon. So we need to do that more and more. So it's not about just doing this process for the negative things you want to get rid of. It's about the whole experience of our sensations and our embodiment. So label what you find using your own vocabulary. So we're talking about sensations here. We're not talking about the emotions. It's about sensations. Butterflies in the stomach, that's a common one, isn't it? Knots in the stomach. Again, what's the positive ones of these? What do you feel like in your body when you sense bliss? If you're going to label bliss, what does bliss feel like? If nobody's felt that in their lives before, how would you explain that to them? Where in the body would you feel it? I would probably tend to go with the heart. The survival chakras are up here, right? Your first three. This one in particular, your gut, is one that I would feel it more if I'm in an anxiety sort of feeling. Bliss, contentment, more in the heart. So just notice that. Whatever, if it's positive or a negative sensation. Where in the body are you feeling it? And what does this tell you about how you are right now? So if you're not very good at labelling emotions, and we're trying to come out of our thoughts, you can use this into the sensations about what's going on. Have you got butterflies in your stomach? Can we notice that first and then go backwards to work out what's going on? Why might I feel like this? I think I give that example of driving in the last video, about driving and getting all worked up and noticing that first. I wasn't thinking about anything as far as I was aware. Again, the subconscious thoughts could be working without you knowing. And this is how you find out. You tune into the body. This is your emotion. So we've gone from, I'm not sure what my emotions are, I don't know what's going on with me right now, I'm in hysterics, I'm crying my eyes out, I don't know what's going on. Right, okay, drop into the body. Label what you find in. What does this tell you about how you are right now? And that's your emotion. When you've got it, sit with it, be with it, have kindness towards it, notice what happens, and does it change? That last one, does it change, shows you that this energy in motion moves. Yes, this energy moves. Energy, emotion. See it for yourself. Okay, so how we link them together then. So the best thing I have come across to link them is like a triangle. So you've got thoughts, emotions, and sensations. Okay, they all link. Any experience you have in the present moment, you will find a link to all them. If you only know one, you can find the other two. And that's what being more mindful is, and being more conscious, like what's going on, where's this coming from? So if you use that example that I gave before about driving somewhere, and you feel the sensation of the butterflies in the stomach, you're like, oh, I feel a bit, oh, what's happened here? Where's that come from out of nowhere? Why am I feeling like that? So when we're used to feeling our sensations, it is like a barometer. It's there to tell you something. So then we can look to our emotions and our thoughts. Why do we think while I'm driving a car, I feel like I've got knots in the stomach or butterflies in the stomach? It could be that I'm thinking about the thing I'm driving to, It could subconsciously, so you're then making it more conscious, a more conscious thought of that. Because that subconscious thought could be sending that signal without you thinking. Or you could be very aware of it and say, oh, I really don't like where I'm driving. I don't know where I'm driving. I don't like the distance I'm driving, but I'm going to have to do it, and I can feel it in my body. So whether or not these thoughts are conscious or not, they can still be giving you the sensations in your body and the clues. It's like a clue, it's like a barometer. It tells you what's going on if we slow down and pay attention to it. Emotions then. So if we've got butterflies in our stomach and we're feeling a bit nervous about going somewhere or doing something, then the sensation is nervous. The emotion is nervousness. Yeah. And it doesn't matter which way. You could say, oh, I feel nervous, and then look for it in your body. There's your butterflies. Why am I feeling like this? Because I don't like the thing I'm driving to. I don't like what I'm going to do or where I'm going to go or who I'm going to see. Yeah? You could be driving along and just have the thought and then dive it into it. Do you see how they all link? Once we get to know this and really, really work with it, it's life-changing. It really is. This is what brings you more conscious living. And when we do this, we can be more spiritual because we are able to tune into energies more. Not just our energy, but energy of other people too. So that's how thoughts, emotions, and sensations can be embodied, all of it together, and help you have a conscious life, basically. Right, now I'm going to give you an example here that I normally talk about this when I talk about grief, to be honest, but because it is I am going to talk a little bit about grief with this example. So both of my parents have passed, and when I was training to be a mindfulness teacher, I was reading this book, and it was saying, I was on the last page of this book, no one else was in the house, and I was reading this book, and it was somebody writing back to themselves after doing the course and giving themselves a prep talk, basically. And I'm trying to remember now, the first line was something along the lines of, you are deserving of life. Something just so simple as that. I wasn't thinking about anything else but the course. No one else was around. I've got goosebumps now talking about this. So, sorry, I'm getting myself back there, you see. You can get yourself back into emotional states when you bring it to mind. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's not such a good thing. But anyway, there's a point to this. So, I read that, I started crying. So I'm like, whoa, where's that come from? And I think it brought back to me about how precious life is, yeah. And it brought me back into that sense of grief and missing my mum and my dad. So I thought, right, okay, Carrie, do the walk, don't just talk the talk. So I was like, right, okay, what's happening? So I was crying, and by this point I got into quite a state. So I was my breathing was out of whack. I was sort of hyperventilating a bit. My throat closed up so tight. We talk about chakras. My throat was really tight. I could barely swallow. I was giving it all this with a load of tears coming down. And there were the three things that I sensed in that moment. And I was like, right, okay, I'm going to find out what's going on. So that's what I did. I noticed that. And I'm not kidding you. Within seconds, they started dropping off one by one. I'm trying to think which order it was. It doesn't really matter. I think it was the breathing. The breathing calmed. The throat started opening again. And I was left with tears. They weren't streaming anymore, but I was left with some tears. And I was like, well, I can handle tears. I'm not kidding you. I'm honest, that lasted no more than 2 or 3 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes of being in that state. Now, if I had pushed that down and said that now is not the right time and I must carry on, and I would still be processing that in my body somewhere. But, and again, I'm not joking with this. I have not had that wave of grief come back since that day. I really haven't. That was back in about 2018, and we're now 2024. Honest, I thought that can't be right. I must have had a big wave like that before, since then, and I really haven't. And it just goes to show, once we acknowledge and pay attention to that's going on in the body, it does wonders. It does wonders. It frees us up. Our bodies feel free, feel seen and heard. Our bodies need to feel seen and heard. Not just us as a being. Our bodies need to feel seen and heard. Okay. Going to get on now to some sound. But basically, we talked about breath as an anchor. And now we can talk about sound. So you can put music on and just sit as a meditative state with that, with your eyes closed and tune into to the music. But I would just let it be music, not anything with words in, because that might bring your head back into the zone. Okay, so I'll do a little poem here, because words, I've just said not to do words, haven't I? With music, I would keep it to the vibration of the music. Poems, it's like a contemplation. You know, you can do it if you're going to do it as a contemplation. So it's sound nonetheless, isn't it? So as long as your words, if you do choose words in music, that's fine. Breathe by Midge-ur, I think that's how you say it. I printed off some of his words from that song. So it's good to contemplate on something that's got some meaningful words in it, not something that's going to take you out of the zone. This is Walk Slowly by Dana Falls. So just rest your eyes if you want to, and just take a deep breath and sit and listen. Bring all your attention, all your anchors to the sound, nothing else. It only takes a reminder to breathe, a moment to be still, and just like that, something in me settles, softens. Make space for imperfection. The harsh voice of judgment drops to a whisper, and I remember again that life isn't a relay race, that we all cross the finish line, that waking up to life is what we are born for. As many times as I forget, catch myself charging forward without even knowing where I'm going, that many times I can make the choice to stop, to breathe and be, and walk slowly into the mystery. And just while your eyes are closed, I'm going to do this singing bowl. I didn't do it for too long because it can be a quick bit echoey on the camera. If you've got your eyes closed, do open them again. And it's just to say that, you know, sound again isn't evil. When we when we come to meditate, we often think you know, sound is a distraction in itself. When we meditate, we've got the clock ticking, we've got cars outside. You know, if you live in such a busy area and you've got so much sound around, use that to your advantage, use that for an anchor. Don't be totally distracted. Don't feel the need that you've got to push it away all the time. If that's quite prominent in your life, use the sound. I've got 2 young kids. Should use that really, because I'm constantly pushing that away. Anyway, that's it. It's been quite a long video that. I hope it's been valuable to you, As always, that's my intention. If it has been valuable, you know what to do. You can bring that energy back and like, share and subscribe. It's always much appreciated. So yeah, I think all that's left to say is move. We've just to recap, we have gone from thoughts, emotions, feelings, or thoughts, emotions, sensations, how they link together, and then we moved on to sound. So yeah, see how it works, drop some comments in, see if it makes sense to you, how it all links, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Much love.